Diary, hello. It is May 2024. We are looking at the MS-01 server PC, and today we're going to be attempting a hard drive update. Now, if you've been following along, this is part of my desire to replace my 6 or 7 year old Windows server with a new Windows server. Now, the existing Windows server is a behemoth of a system. It's a huge EATX motherboard with hundreds of gigabytes of memory and not very much hard drives. So the plan is to replace it with this diminutive little machine, and I've been testing it for about a week now in terms of whether it can run Windows Server 2022. The answer is yes. So anyway, the focus of this video is a disk upgrade. Now, as you'll see, everything is very tightly packed in this machine. There's a button here which allows you to take the case out. Now, when I first got the machine, no matter how hard I pressed this button, nothing moved. But just like sort of when you get used to stuff, now I find that when I press this button and pull, it should work. Although, right, there we go. So that's opening the case, and you'll see that there are cutouts here, and they obviously match the USB ports on the front of the machine. Now, the action is on the back of the machine. Now, amazingly enough, this machine could insert a PCI Express card here. I don't plan to do so, but it's nice to know that one could do that. There's a CPU cooling fan here, and if you turn it over, it's where the hard disk action occurs. Now, I could only buy this machine with some populated drives because they were out of stock of the bare bones version. So whilst I had a working machine on delivery, unfortunately, I will need to change some of the components, and that's what we're going to do today. So this is a fan that cools the drives. Now, much to my horror, I found out, well, let's take this plate. I've already had some run-ins with this already. Let's just try this. So the 3 screws that come off here. One. By the way, there are no manuals of any sort for this machine, which is a bit depressing. So if you build a system from scratch, or if you're an experienced system builder, you would normally expect to find lots of detailed manuals, but there are none to speak of. Now, you have to be very careful when you take this off, because I wasn't that careful, and this wire here links to a fan power point here, and that fell out. So this lead fell off, and then getting it back in was an absolute flipping nightmare. So I won't go into that. I'm just going to say this is linked here. This is the fan that cools the hard drives. Do not pull it off, and then you'll be really sorry. So I'm just going to mount that there, and then you're going to see that the 3 drives can be fitted. So there's the first drive that was fitted from the factory, the second drive that I fitted recently, and you can fit a 3rd drive. I think this is PCIe 4 and these are PCIe 3. Now, I want to replace the boot drive with my own boot drive, so I have bought another drive. Now, there's something to know, which is that this device should only be used with single-sided drives, and much to my horror, if you fit a heatsink on here, you can't put the fan casing on. So you've got drive number 1, which you can see has a heatsink. Drive number 2 and drive number 3 are so close to this fan here that you can't physically fit heatsink. So obviously I put heatsink on first, then tried to get the case on, and then I couldn't, and I had to wrench it off. It was really well stuck here. So this is the drive that came from Mr. Factory, and I'm going to try and take that off. This ought to be a simple process, right? What could possibly go wrong? That should just pop out. It has just popped out. There's the screw. So that's the outgoing single-sided drive with some thermal heatsink onto it. So I'm going to replace that with this single-sided NVMe drive. Now, just don't forget that NVMe drives are normally double-sided. To get the higher capacities, you would So to get a high capacity drive, you would normally have electronics on the back as well. But this is a single-sided drive, so that's kind of unusual. So when you're shopping for drives for this product, you need to select single-sided, and to my knowledge, 4 terabytes is the highest density you can go for. Now, another thing to know is when you buy an SSD, an NVMe drive, you can have it with or without DRAM cache. I'm a great Crucial fan, but the P3 Plus drive that I ordered and Amazon didn't deliver doesn't have a cache, and this Lexar drive is of the same price but does have a cache. So this should be able to reach, I think in the PCI 4 conditions, over 6,000 megabytes per second. And these speeds are now so ridiculously quick that they're kind of pretty much academic. I don't really think anyone who's got any kind of computer knowledge at all is going to be seriously going to be able to notice the difference between, let's say, 2,000 megabyte and a 6,000 megabyte or faster drive. So it's kind of really like just point scoring. But this is an economically priced, single-sided NVMe drive with cache, which should be able to peak at 6,000 megabytes per second. So the plan is to insert that in here, and then we are going to reboot the system, restore the operating system, what I backed up earlier, and then have the same OS, which is Windows Server 2022 server, on here. Excuse me, on here. So let's go to the next step, which is going to be putting this drive in. It would be helpful to put it around the right way around. And we're going to apply the heatsink in a moment. And, yeah, okay. Take that on the edit. Okay, so I saved the heatsink from the aborted last attempt putting a heatsink on. Here's the heatsink. Then, sorry about this camera, angles. Gonna just place that on. Yeah, I think that's pretty square. So now the plan is put this fan back without mucking anything up. So like I say, this fan sticks out here. You cannot fit a heatsink here. Now, the other question is, does this fan go underneath or above this seemingly not related plastic connector here, which doesn't appear to attach to anything? I think I'm going to put it above. That's what I did last time. Okay, so the plan is above, baby. There, it ought to fit, right? That wire is not trapped. That hasn't fallen out. So now we should be up to an 8 terabyte system in the size of a machine, you know, no larger than a Mac Mini. I mean, this machine is built to price. I would be happier if it would have been in a slightly larger case, to be fair. I don't think it needed to be exactly this small, unless it's some sort of standard I'm unaware of. So there are the 3 screws, gently tightened. Now all we need to do is to put this case back on, which should be fairly easy. On hooks. Come on, baby, don't let me down. Oh yeah, other way around. That might help. Upside down. This is on the bottom. and then that's the top and that's the back. So now we're ready to do some more testing. Hopefully we need to restore the operating system onto that terabyte disk. I made a backup earlier onto a NVMe connected hard drive. Let me just show you that. So Windows Server has a native backup utility which can make a backup of the bare metal system. So I've made a backup onto this drive. Then on this key is what's called my Ventoy key. So you can all look that up. VENTOY. It's an amazing product which allows you to put just .isos on a drive, and then as you can boot from this drive and you get a menu of all the .isos you've put on there. So you don't unpack the ISO, just put the ISO on there, and then you can boot the ISO as though it was an unpacked file. So in other words, I could fit, say, 20 operating system install CDs on here, probably more because it's a 256 gigabyte key. And then I can boot from any one of those ISOs as though I'm installing, let's say, or in this case, repairing, restoring an operating system. So I'll choose to boot the Windows 2022 ISO. I'll select repair system, and then I'm going to do a restore. Okay, let's see how that goes.